Good evening, listeners. You're tuned in to the ghostly broadcast, Paranormal Station. I am your host, Timothy. Tonight we journey to Denver, Colorado, where Jamie recounts the consequences of her lackadaisical lifestyle, her encounter with the paranormal, and a harsh lesson about being careful what you wish for. Part 1. Dear Timothy, my name is Jamie. I am sorry. I was a bartender for a dive bar in Denver. Now the bar is gone, and my job with it. I lost everything, Timothy. My job, my girlfriend, and soon I'll lose my place when I can't make rent. I've got no one to blame but myself and whoever gave me this fucking tattoo. I worked late nights at the bar. Most of the time, I drank on the job and had coke on my breaks to keep up. Then, after a long shift, I'd head out into town and drink my tips away at more bars, clubs, strip joints, and anywhere else that would serve me. I was addicted to every vice going, including tattoos. I've covered almost every inch of skin in them. I don't even remember getting most of them. I'd wake up at noon and feel sore somewhere on my body, then check the mirror to see whatever I'd gotten the night before. But this is the story of the last tattoo that I ever got. It was a few weeks ago. Again, I had no idea where I got it from or who put it on me. Most of the tattoo places in town know me and won't serve me anymore when I'm too drunk. So I have no real way of knowing where I got it. I woke up with a sore head and a cotton mouth. Beth, my girlfriend, had already left for work, and I was used to waking up alone. She always left a glass of water on the nightstand for me. And as I reached out for it, I felt the familiar sting of a fresh tattoo on my wrist. I turned my right palm face up and stared at the little tattoo just below the joint between my hand and forearm. There was a little 5-fingered monkey paw tattooed in black ink. It was splayed out, displaying all 5 fingers held up, almost like a furry little high five. I groaned, drank some water, and rolled out of bed. After a quick shower and a slap of coconut butter on the fresh tattoo, I headed downstairs for the evening's breakfast at the bodega below our apartment. When I stepped out into the street, the sun was already setting. I'd forgotten what a sunrise looked like. It had been so long since I started working these shifts that the only hours of the morning I saw were the short, dark ones after the bars had closed. I crossed the threshold of the bodega, and when I saw Kyle behind the counter, I groaned audibly and turned my face away. I considered walking back out, but I hadn't given myself enough time to go somewhere else to grab a bite. "Hey! Hey!" Kyle shouted as I reached into the cooler for a 6-pack. "You had enough of eating carpet yet? You wanna come and ride some real dick?" he asked with a crooked smile. "The only way you're getting the little cock of yours wet is in the shower, Kyle," I said as I ripped a can from the pack, opened it, and chugged. "Hey, you better fucking pay for that," he growled. I rolled my eyes and carried on shopping. When I brought my stuff to the counter, dreading the encounter with this gross deadbeat, he started ringing me up slowly, smiling as he had me as his captive audience. "So, I haven't heard from you and that pretty nurse of yours in a while. Trouble in bed, huh?" he smirked. I gave him a death stare and ignored him. "You know, I ain't surprised. Without a man in your lives, it must make sex pretty dull," he carried on. "Even if you spent 30 seconds trying to find my clit while rubbing your little cock on my leg, I still wouldn't be as disappointed as your dad must be. You can't even get more than 2 shifts a week at your uncle's store. You fucking loser. I ranted as I slammed my money down, grabbed my stuff and stormed away. You won't be saying that when I show you 2 dykes a real good time, he shouted after me. I felt violent, white-hot rage bubble up inside me. At that moment, I hated that fucker so much I would have wished anything to see him suffer. Just fuck off and die, Kyle, I yelled, my hand on the door. It swung towards me with force before I could open the door, shoving me back into the shelves. A guy in a ski mask marched in and pointed a gun in Kyle's face. Give me the fucking money, he ordered at Kyle. Kyle stammered. Open the register and give me the fucking money, man, he barked again. Kyle tentatively opened the cash register while I watched, frozen on the floor against the chips and snacks. Back the fuck up, the armed robber yelled. Kyle blabbered, moving towards the register. It was almost like he was trying to plead with the guy not to take the money, but the robber didn't even hesitate. A loud pop blasted through the store. Kyle's eyes rolled back, his arms flopped, and he crumbled behind the counter out of my sight. The cigarettes behind the counter were splattered in blood and pink chunks of gray matter. I gasped, frozen in shock, while the robber helped himself to the contents of the register, stuffing random bills into his pockets. A few seconds later, he stormed past me back out the door. He didn't even see me. The cops showed up a few minutes later. I hadn't called them. I hadn't even moved. I jumped out of my skin when one leaned down to help me. Okay, ma'am. We'll call you if we need you to come down to the station and make another statement. The officer said as I sat in shock on the hood of his squad car. Do you have anyone you can call? Huh? I asked, not registering what they were saying. Do you have anyone you can call, ma'am? He asked again. I thought about calling Beth, but she'd be on shift and probably wouldn't have her phone on her. I took out my phone anyway and hovered my thumb over her name in my contacts. Suddenly, I got a text from my boss. Where the fuck are you? You're late again, it read. Hair. No, I gotta get to work, I sighed. The cop looked at me with confused, sympathetic eyes, shook his head and stepped away. I folded my arms, tried to compose myself and calm the jitters and shock. I caught the fresh tattoo on my wrist and pulled it away as it stung. I did a double take as I glimpsed the monkey paw. The thumb was folded and only 4 fingers were held up and splayed outward. When I got to the bar, feeling a little woozy, I realized I hadn't even had the chance to eat anything. I was already late for my shift. I walked in, stormed behind the bar, poured myself a stiff glass of liquid lunch, and downed it before pouring another. I heard the puffing and panting of my short, fat boss, Tony, as he shuffled his way hurriedly to the bar. Is she here? He blurted out. Yes, Tony. I'm fucking here. I was a witness to a damn shooting outside my apartment. I had to give a statement, I sighed. Were you fucking shot? He yelled rhetorically. Then why the fuck were you late? I ignored him and downed my second glass. That's coming out of your tips, he shouted again. I flipped him the bird and slammed $10 on the bar in front of him. Tony stormed off to his office in the back. Kelly, one of the newer bartenders, stepped up alongside me. Hey, be careful, Jamie. He's really pissed today. More than usual, you know, she said in a hushed voice in my ear. Yeah. Well, so am I. I watched a dude get his brains blown out an hour ago, I shouted. "Oh," Kelly said, backing up. "Are you okay?" "I will be," I said, downing a third glass. Kelly looked at me with concern, but slowly backed away to the other end of the bar. "Okay. Take it easy, I guess." Tony marched back into the bar. "I'm not paying you to stand around and drink, Jamie. Get to fucking work," he yelled. I gestured at the rest of the bar. The only people in there were our two regular drunks, finishing up before the crowds came. "It's just Bob and Rick, Tony. Do you want me to force it down their throats?" I asked incredulously. Bob and Rick didn't even look up from their drinks. By this point in the night, both of them were practically asleep at the table. "You think you're not replaceable?" Tony asked, beginning one of his rants. "You're a pair of nice legs and a decent rack. Now get 'em to work for me," he yelled. Something in me snapped. I couldn't take it anymore. The lecherous little man had gotten away with this crap for too long, and I was done with him. "Oh, fuck off and die, you sweaty little creep." I screamed with fire in my eyes. Tony almost jumped back in shock, but all he managed was a weak stagger. He gave a little grunt like he was trying to get some words out, but then his face went even redder than usual. He clutched his hand to his chest and fell to the floor. Kelly dropped her glass to the floor in shock, shouting, "Oh shit, Tony." She hurried over to see him gasping, struggling for breath. I was frozen, catatonic and staring at the man I'd hated for years, who was now lying on the floor, struggling and wheezing. "Jamie, call 911, Kelly shouted. I pulled out my phone and started to dial. When I hit the number 9 with my thumb, I saw the monkey paw tattoo on my wrist. The little finger had curled in. Now 3 fingers remained held up. Over the next few nights, the bar limped on without Tony. Kelly kept everyone's shifts going, but I could tell she was worried. She wouldn't say anything about Tony, just that he was recovering in the hospital from a heart attack. I didn't care. Tony deserved it. The way he groped Kelly and commented on her body. The way he would accidentally put his hands on my ass when walking past me. Tony had it coming, karmic retribution at its finest. But none of it improved my mood. I woke up to the room spinning as my alarm buzzed incessantly. I heard Beth in the kitchen getting herself ready. Her hair was tied in a neat bun, and she was trying to hurry out the door. "Shit," she whispered to herself before she moved to the sink and tried to get something off of her clean, blue hospital scrubs. "Beth," I groaned. "Wow, you're up," Beth said with sarcastic venom in her voice. "And you don't seem as drunk as usual." "Can you make me a coffee, babe?" I asked. "No, Jamie. I'm not making you a coffee. I have to get to work." "I actually have a job to get to," Beth huffed. "Hey, I work too," I said reflexively in defense. "Oh really, Jamie? 'Cause that's news to me," Beth spat. "I work at the fucking bar. What do you want from me?" I retorted. "So when was the last time you made rent, huh? Or have you just been drinking your paycheck every night and letting me work double shifts to make ends meet?" Beth said, storming into the bedroom and chastising me. I had nothing to say. "You know, I don't know who you are, Jamie, but you're not my girlfriend anymore." "You're just drowning her in booze and covering her in tattoos," Beth continued. "Are you breaking up with me?" I asked. "That's not what I'm saying," Beth said, stepping back. "Well, that's what it fucking sounds like. Just rip the fucking Band-Aid off and go," I shouted. "Jamie," Beth said, tears welling in her eyes. "Go!" I yelled. A tear rolled down her cheek. She choked down a sob and left the apartment. As I headed downstairs, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from Kelly. The bar's closed for good. Tony died a few hours ago. Sorry, Jamie. I'll let you know if I find any good gigs, the text read. I'd lost my job and girlfriend in less than a minute, all in one night. I was too sauced to care about Beth. It almost felt good to hurt her like that. It's not like I was forcing her to stick around. She could have left any time she wanted. It's not my fault she had a thing for washouts like me. I didn't need her. I shook my head, grumbled, and went back to sleep for an hour. When I got to my shift that night, I was in an even worse mood than usual. I was sour and angry over what Beth had said to me, and I was throwing back hard liquor to drown my sorrows, trying to stop thinking about it. About an hour into my shift, I saw a blonde woman in a red evening dress, covered in a black jacket, walking into the bar. She was stunning, but the look in her eyes was one of nervous frustration. I'd never seen her in the bar before, and she was definitely overdressed for it. But the night was young, and the crowds hadn't shown up yet. The woman in red made her way to the bar and sat down. Her sad blue eyes drew me in, and I headed her way immediately. "Can I get you a drink?" I asked. Sure. Do you guys mix cocktails?" she asked, looking at the optics and the bottles attached to them behind me. "For you? Sure, I can mix something special for you," I grinned flirtatiously. The blonde woman smiled and thanked me. She had a great smile. I put together a drink and slid in front of her. "What is it?" she asked. "A Long Island iced tea. You know, for the long face," I joked. "That obvious, huh?" she asked. "Well, this place doesn't seem like your kind of vibe," I shrugged. My date stood me up, so I thought, why not? Fuck him, she chuckled. I spent the rest of the night serving her drinks and propping up that corner of the bar with her. We made light-hearted conversation, joked around, and made fun of her date and my ex. I told her that Beth was my ex. As the evening wore on, I was increasingly flirting with her. She was obviously not into girls, but even when I could see it made her uncomfortable, she still stayed, drinking and talking to me, looking at me with those crystal blue eyes. I was captivated with her. I didn't even know her name, but I wanted her badly. I tried to forget all about Beth, have a wild fling with this woman, and see what was under that red dress. "Hey," I said over the bar, bringing her another drink and leaning towards her. "You want to do something crazy tonight?" "What do you have in mind? What do you want to do?" she said, raising an eyebrow. I leaned in and whispered to her over the bar's music and crowds. "I want to do you." She leant back, looking at me wide-eyed like a deer caught in the headlights. I'm not gay," she stammered for a second, but then something in her eyes changed. She looked at me for a moment, like the wires in her head had gotten tangled. A signal hadn't been transmitted, or a neuron misfired. "Okay," she said with a weak smile. I led her by the hand to the bathroom in the back, employees only. I slammed the door shut behind us and had her up against the wall, her tongue against mine. Within seconds, the two of us were in the throes of a passionate fling in the dank, dingy bathroom in the back of the bar. Afterwards, I leaned back against the opposite wall and pulled my pants back up, sighing with satisfaction. She tentatively readjusted her underwear beneath her dress and looked away from me, confused, like she couldn't quite understand what she'd just done, or why she even did it. "Hey, you good?" I asked. "Yeah. She paused, trying to figure out what to say. "I'm gonna go," she muttered, leaving without even making eye contact. By then, I guess," I said after her, but the woman in red ignored me. She was already gone when I returned to the bar, leaving some cash behind and a small tip. "Friend of yours?" Kelly asked me. "I dunno," I shrugged. I grabbed a bottle of liquor and went to pour myself a shot. That's when I noticed the monkey paw tattoo. It only had 2 fingers left. That's when things started making sense. Kyle, Tony, the girl in red. All of it was connected to the monkey paw. It was granting me wishes. I got home around 3 in the morning to find Beth sitting on the sofa with a box of tissues in front of her. I was too drunk and tired for any of her crap, but looking into her eyes gave me another awful feeling rising in my gut. I felt guilty. "Jamie, I want to try to at least talk to you, please," Beth started. I didn't want to talk, and I didn't want to do anything. There was nothing I wanted to say to Beth to let her in, because as soon as I did, I wouldn't be able to look at her without thinking about what I'd done. So instead, I flew into a drunken rage to shut her up. "What do we have to talk about, Beth? We broke up," I shouted. Beth looked confused and said, "That's not what I meant this morning, Jamie." I love. "It's what I meant," I shouted. "I don't need you, Beth. I can get plenty of pussy at the bar if I want. I don't need you hanging around and nagging me to do better," I screamed. Beth's eyes inflamed. She stood up and forced out the question she never wanted to ask. "Jamie, did you?" She stopped. I looked at her, taken aback with my mouth hanging open. "Oh my God, you did, didn't you?" she said, starting to sob. My heart softened, seeing her cry like that. "Beth." "Get out!" she screamed. I sighed, turned around, and left the apartment. Whatever, I thought, as I staggered out into the street. I didn't need her. I had my own personal genie with 2 wishes left. The sun was still down, and the night still had hours left. I knew there was somewhere I could go to drown it. Somewhere I could go to make some money. A couple of the bikers I served at the bar had a place out by the shipping depot. It was their bar. No rules, no last call. Even better was that they had a gambling racket in the back. I could take enough cash for a buy-in, make my wish and clean them all out. I hit the ATM and got there in a taxi. The place looked like it never slept, even though it was approaching 4 in the morning. It wasn't my first time down here, and the guy at the door waved me in. "Damn, Jamie. We don't see you down here often." "Steve," the guy at the bar said with a smile. "Want a hit?" he said, gesturing at the coke he'd lined up on the bar. "Sure," I said as he handed me a rolled note. I leaned down and snorted the bump. "Berg," I gasped as I leaned my head back. "That'll be $20, Steve said, his tone shifting and mouth souring. I looked at him incredulously. $20? Come on, Steve. Are you kidding me? How many times have I let your bar tab slide?" I pleaded. "Call it 15 then," he shrugged. "Call it 10, I said, slapping the money onto the bar. "10 it is," he said with a smile. "Beer?" he asked. "Beer," I said. He opened a bottle and slid it over to me. "You can have this on the house. For my bar tab," Steve said with a cheeky grin. I ignored him and rolled my eyes, taking a big gulp. "So, Steve, any games going on tonight?" I asked. His face dropped and his eyes grew wide. "Jamie, no. You don't want to be fucking around back there." Just drink and have a good time. It ain't worth it, he pleaded, shaking his head at me. What if I can make it worth it, I asked. Trust me, even if you had the money, it ain't worth it, he said. I put down all the money I'd brought and said sternly, just get me in there. Steve picked up the wad of cash, thumbed through it and sighed. It's your funeral. After a few minutes, a big, burly, bearded man wearing his MC cut approached me. You playing? He grunted. Sure am, I said, downing my beer. Follow me, he gestured. I followed him past the bar, past the strippers and drunk bikers, through the meatpacking and storage of smuggled goods that this place was obviously fronting for. I got a glimpse of everything from Eurotrash porn to fake Gucci. These guys were serious. I didn't see a gun until the big dude brought me to a door down a thin corridor. Another guy was holding a pump-action shotgun, standing guard. He opened the door for me and let me in. The room was dark and filled with smoke. Several guys were sitting around a poker table, all looking right at me. We're letting a bitch play tonight? One of them asked out loud. She bought in, unless you got a problem with her money, another said. The first speaker looked at me for a second as if trying to intimidate me. I stared right back, unflinching. Nah, he said. Have a seat, he offered, kicking a chair towards me. I took my seat and sat down, and the dealer dealt me in. I was never much of a poker player. I didn't have the face for it, but it was all in the cards that night. I had the best hands, and the river always came out for me, and I was sitting on a pile of cash after only an hour. The bikers grumbled and grunted, cursed and swore, but none of them did anything other than stare at me with hard eyes. I was taking their money right from under them. They could do nothing about it. I don't know if it was the booze, the coke, or a combination of the two. Maybe it was the monkey paw that gave me the overconfidence. Either way, it didn't matter. I couldn't tell how much danger I was in until it was too late. One of them got up and casually started to walk for the door. You want a drink, little lady? He asked me as he reached my shoulder. Before I could answer, he slammed my head into the table. I was blinded instantly as my nose popped and my eyes filled with tears. I tried to speak, but I choked on the blood running down the back of my throat. Ugh, fuck, I grunted. You hustled the wrong crowd tonight, bitch, he growled as he threw me back in my chair to the floor. Two of them stood over me and kicked me repeatedly in the ribs and stomach. When they were done, I was winded, coughing and spluttering. Don't worry, Jamie. We know where you work. We won't touch that pretty little face of yours, one of them said as he leaned down and stroked my face. I snapped my head away from his hand and spat. That made him laugh. He wrapped my hand around my throat and growled through gritted teeth. Never come back here. I was thrown out of the back of the place, beaten, bruised, and bloody. I kept spitting out the blood from my mouth as it leaked into the back of my throat from my busted nose. Steve ran out to tend to me, but I shooed him away. Shit, Jamie. Don't say I didn't warn you, he shrugged. Fuck off, I grunted through a blocked nose. Fine. Whatever, you crazy bitch, he said, walking away and waving his hand dismissively. I noticed the monkey paw tattoo as I wiped my sore, puffy nose. There was only one finger left. I only had one wish I wanted to make. I wanted Beth. I wanted to be in her arms. To be held and loved, comforted and soothed. I wanted to cry on her lap and let it all out, but she was gone. Still, I knew one way she could take me back. I hailed a cab and told him to head for the hospital. He agreed without question, seeing how messed up I was. But I wasn't going for treatment. I was going to see Beth. I arrived as the sun rose, and Beth was walking out of the front of the ER at the end of her shift. I was glad that I didn't have to find her. It was almost like she was waiting for me. "Jamie!" she shouted in shock. I threw my arms around her and sobbed. Bloody snot poured out of my nose and mixed in with the tears running down my cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Beth. I'm so sorry," I sobbed. Beth held me in her arms and let me wail. It's okay," she said repeatedly and soothingly as I cried. After a few minutes of her consoling me, I managed to stop. "I'm so sorry, Beth. I didn't realize how important you are to me and how much I need you," I cried. "It's okay, Jamie. I was thinking as well. I don't know, maybe it's pity. Maybe it's just because I know you're better than this. But I'm not ready to give up on you," she said, stroking my cheeks and wiping away the tears. I smiled through the tears and hugged her tightly. "What happened to you?" she asked. "Doesn't matter, Beth. Can we just go home, please?" I begged. "Sure. Let's go home," she said. The two of us got back in the taxi. I rested my head on Beth's lap, sobbing quietly. I was relieved to have her back and ready to sleep off my awful night. Just as my heavy eyes began to close, I heard the loud crash and screech of metal hitting metal at high speed. I felt a jolt. My body hit something, and then there was nothing. The world went dark around me. When I opened my eyes, it felt like only seconds had passed, but I was in a bright white room. Light blasted into my eyes, burning my retinas. I tried to lift my hand to shield my face, but I couldn't block the light. It shone through my hand. "Jamie, can you hear me?" a man asked with a gentle voice. I grumbled in response. Everything felt heavy. Even moving my lips took effort. "Take your time," the voice said. "Beth?" I asked. My eyes adjusted, and I tried to sit up. I could make out the hospital room, doctors and nurses around me. I could smell the clean chemical smell of sanitized floors, walls, and sheets, and I felt sick. "Where is Beth?" I asked again. "Jamie, I'm very sorry to tell you this. You and Beth were in a car accident. The two of you were badly injured," the doctor started. "Beth?" I said over a lump forming in my throat. "Jamie, I am so sorry. Bethany died at the scene," the doctor sighed. "No," I stammered. No, I sobbed. I raised my hands to my face to scream into them, but that's when I saw my right hand. It was gone. All that was left was a bandaged stump just above a small tattoo of a closed black monkey paw. No fingers remaining. Yours, Jamie. Thank you for that harrowing, profoundly personal testimony, Jamie. I hope you are on the path to recovery from all the wounds you've sustained, mental and physical. I also hope that your story can exist as a cautionary tale. Those of you who seek out the aid of the supernatural should be careful what you wish for. This has been Ghostly Broadcast, Paranormal Station. I've been your host, Timothy. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this testimony. If you have any testimonies of your own and would like to be featured in our next broadcast, feel free to get in touch in the comments. You can also support our work cataloging the supernatural by liking, subscribing, and tapping the bell icon to be notified when our latest broadcasts go live. Tread carefully at night, dear listeners, and sleep soundly this evening. Good night.